Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Stage Racing Podcast. We got a lot to talk about today, so buckle up and get ready. All right, Cody, we've already been chatting a little bit on here, so welcome back, man. New week, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Yeah, we're feeling
Ready to
a
dive into
little
it.
on the later end here on Tuesday night. I was telling you, I'm kind of glad that we were hoping to yesterday and just weren't able to, but I'm kind of glad we waited. And we'll get to that in a minute. But we're trying some new background things here, so if this flops, we won't do it anymore. But Cody rocking the logo, I'm rocking a little picture I took before the spring race at Martinsville here. But I want to start by saying, when Cindric won at Talladega, I wore the Ford Performance shirt. I will not wear anything if Joey Logano wins a race that is anything remotely to anything. So since Joey won, sorry, can't do it. Can't do it. Much like most of y'all hear me talk about, I like Denny. Can't do it. Cannot do it. So, anyways,
No,
I think
I
you
don't
kind
think
of
you're
feel the
gonna
same
hear
way.
much.
You might
I don't
not
think
take
you're
it
gonna
to the
hear. You're
extreme
not gonna
side.
hear much from me, and I don't think you're gonna hear much from anybody else.
Yeah, Joey is Joey. Well, let's get right into it, man. The biggest news today, it had broke a few weeks ago, but NASCAR finally confirmed today that the championship race will return to Homestead in 2026. This is exciting. We've kind of begged for that. But they've also announced that it's going to rotate locations moving forward, similar to what you get with the Super Bowl, the Final Four. For once, it's good to get on here and say NASCAR finally got a win. Way to do it. Now, a couple of key things that they put in this release is that the playoff format is still to be determined. So I'm sitting here rubbing my hands together like, come on, man, give us what we want here. Give us what we want. I do think just hearing enough people talk about it, I think you're going to get a championship round now in some way, shape, or form. I don't think it's just going to be a championship race. Is that? I think just hearing what I've heard, I'm thinking that's it. What you thinking the same?
Reading between the lines, that's the way it kind of puts off.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, and it would be cool. And we'll talk about that again here in a second, but just your initial reaction and going back to Homestead, I think you're kind of like me. It's like, okay, this is pretty good, and that track has put on some good races in this car.
Yeah, golf clap for NASCAR making the right decision, and we've hit on that a couple podcasts ago. But yeah, I'm super excited for it. I'm hoping that Homestead can come up with some funds and work with the state up there down there to get some renovations and kind of make it that championship caliber track, and with some of the renovations and things, it's already a great track, but
Mhm.
some of the other stuff, the creature features and things like that, because if you're going to hold a championship there, you need to be able to accommodate everybody and make it have that championship feel at the track. So hopefully they can get that done too.
Your guesses, I'll let you take your stab at it here. The other locations, we know that Phoenix will be one of them. NASCAR's already said Phoenix and Homestead. It'll be two locations there. Any guesses? And they've mentioned the short track could be in there. Now they do consider Phoenix a short track. Any guesses for you of where else they might rotate to?
I figure Atlanta's going to be in there. It's received such
I will
positive
say though they
praise.
have said that they're going to stick away from super speedways. Now I don't know if they consider that a super speedway, and it could
That's
that track is changing, like
that's my
physically
point.
changing, so the racing could
Yeah,
change there.
yeah. So I feel like Atlanta's going to be in that Final Four potentially. Also, too, I think it also kind of hits with that nostalgia a little bit because season long ago used to end in
Hmm.
Atlanta. So I feel like that's going to be in there. Um, hate to see, I would like to see Martinsville in there. I think late October. I think it just adds a little bit of you know old school racing mentality, and I think it gives you a little bit of especially during a championship. If Atlanta can kind of get some, they can space out there and not run so bumper to bumper. I think it gives you four really good tracks that are potentially just you got to have a different skill set at every single one of them, and I
Hmm.
think they could think that would be really cool.
Yeah, um, as much as I'd love to see Martinsville there, I just don't think it is, just because it's a small town. small city. It's small market, very small market. It's not. It would be awesome. I would not complain, and I'd probably be the first one over at the ticket box to get my tickets to be there. But I don't know if it would have what they're looking for in a championship site. Now, again, I could see it being part of a championship round. I think most people would like to see Martinsville still where it is as that second to last race on the schedule. So that would be pretty neat. I think the ones for me, um, it's been a long time since NASCAR did a championship race at a SMI track. So
Mhm.
that makes me wonder if they're willing to not use one of their own tracks. But if they're not, then I would say Homestead, Phoenix, Las Vegas. We've talked about this before, I
Vegas.
think. I mean, how
Yep.
cool would it be to have a championship in Vegas, man? That's just awesome. Um,
Yep.
and then that time of year, you've got that warm climate. I think or climate, not climate, warm climate. I think that's what they shoot for that
Mm.
race too. So I don't know. I think those are the three. I could see Atlanta. I think if that track continues to evolve at the way it kind of
Yep.
seems like it might be, um, if the weather wouldn't be a factor for that time of year, and we'll talk about this track at the very end today, Kansas. It's just in the middle of
Yep.
nowhere. That's the problem.
I
You
guess.
don't have that usual thing. But from a pure track standpoint, mm, or do they just stay home, have the finale
Home
in
for
Charlotte?
Charlotte. Yep. And I thought when you asked the question, I thought you were talking about like which group of like four tracks would I want to see in a championship for,
Oh yeah,
not
yeah,
more
yeah.
or less the rotation.
Well, part of
Yeah,
the
if we're talking,
rotation,
but
I
if we're
guess. Yeah.
talking, yeah, if we're talking about the rotation of just finishing at one, then yeah, Martinsville wouldn't be it, of course. But yeah, Vegas definitely up there. And I was going to say Charlotte, butt in and say Charlotte right before you did. So um, I think Charlotte would be a great track to have a championship at. And I
Just not
mean,
on the stupid Roval. Just please
no,
put her
I
on the
don't think.
oval, man.
I don't think NASCAR. I don't think NASCAR. I think NASCAR is well aware enough to know to not put that on the road.
Yeah, I mean, they came out today. The good news is another again golf clap for them today. They came out today in the little press conference around this, said they're not going to finish at Daytona. They're not going to finish at Talladega. I would assume right now that means Atlanta in its current state. Um, and I don't think if they're not going to do that there, they're not going to do it at a road course. I would be so shocked to see NASCAR finish their season at a road course. Just don't see it. Now, if you're talking championship round, and we'll get into this in a minute. It would be pretty cool if you're doing 3 or 4 races in a championship round to sprinkle a little road course in there. Not the Roval though. I don't think anybody
No,
wants that. But um, with the
no.
time of year, that might be all you got to work with, unless you go out on the West Coast and go to Sonoma. But um, yeah, who knows? Who knows, man? Let's keep it. Let's keep talking about the playoffs. I listened to Dale Jr.'s download. I haven't finished it yet. I was actually listening to it tonight. I had to run out to Walmart, but got to the part where he was talking to Cindric. But before that, in the first half of his pod, he was talking about his championship or playoff format. Did you get a chance to listen to it?
Yeah, I listen to most of it.
Okay, so you get the gist. I like what he said. I like what he said, and I think you even sent me the clip before I even had a chance to listen to it. This was last week, so the previous week,
Yep.
where he's like, we got to put more emphasis on the season. And he's right. You got to put more emphasis on the season because you don't see these guys stressing out right now. I mean, Denny, let's take Denny, for instance, here in Texas this past week. He had a little karma. He gave the horns down in the Longhorn State, and a few laps later, he blew up. Um, but he wasn't that stressed about it. It's probably hurt his chances of winning the regular season championship. He's going to need some help now. But at the end of the day, he's won 2 races already. He's sitting fine for the current format. So there needs to be some urgency right from the get go. And basically, what Dale suggested was similar to what we used to do, full season format. And then at the end of it, how many ever races you want to call it, you take your top 4 drivers and you put them into a championship round. And he even said in that round, we shouldn't highlight all the tracks that we do. He said we should highlight a drafting track. I'm with them if we can fix these cars. We should do a road course. Again, with you, we got to fix these cars. Short track. With you, fix these cars. And then finally, like a mile and a half, which these cars actually work on. one out of 4, I guess. I like it. I think you like it too. You sent it to me. You're like, I kind of like this. But that was about all our
Yeah.
conversation was. So elaborate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a full supporter of it. I mean, I think, I've long time since we started this podcast talking about, make the regular season matter. And,
Mhm.
you know, and you start to see it was really nice to see. And we'll get into this a little bit farther, but all the accidents at Texas. It was nice to see some of the guys when they were talking. They're like, oh yeah, the guys are over there working on the car to get us back out there. That's what I want to go back to seeing too, for it to mean something. And some of the guys that are lower in points that are fighting for that top 16 that may or may not get a win at some point, they're kind of worried. But when you got
Hmm.
those teams, like you know Ryan Blaney, or I don't think he's won yet. So, or Brad
He hadn't,
Keselowski,
but he's,
so that's the thing is they
oh
know.
God,
I mean,
Brad.
Ryan Blaney knows at some point he's going to go out there and get a win. So he's probably not quite as stressed yet. But you've got these teams like a Brad Keselowski, like someone like that who, I've got to
He
fight
is
for the top
currently,
16.
yeah.
And
Let's just talk about Brad. Good example because Buddy is having a horrible year. He is
yeah,
currently 32nd in points. And I had some expectations for Brad coming in this year because he made the playoffs last year.
hmm
And you're like, okay, maybe they figure something out. And then, oof, not to get off subject, but oh my gosh,
no, yeah, you're
Brad,
fine.
we need you, man.
So
We love old Kalowski around here, and I need him to get it together because I don't like seeing bad Brad at 32nd in points.
I don't think anybody does. So, but yeah, just give me a round of four with with four drivers, and I love the idea of putting a different track to we talked earlier in the year about Christopher Bale. Had he taken that next step to when he win at a road course, to win at a
Hmm.
win at almost win at a super speedway, win at Phoenix or whatever. So different style tracks. Can someone go on that Tony Stewart sort of run like he did back in the
Hmm.
day, and tie Carl Edwards in the championship and win because you had the most wins in the play? Like, can they do that? Like, and you're putting everyone's skill to the test, and ultimately, when you're at the top level of your sport, that's what we want to see.
We
It's
want to see
can you
you at
adapt to all
everything that it
this?
throws at you. We want to see. We don't want
Correct.
to just know that your organization's good at Phoenix, with what we've seen
Correct.
in Penske these last few years. Take nothing away from Blaney and nothing away from Joey, but um, yeah, it's just not the same. And too bad the Final Four is already copyrighted. But you could almost hit it with the Wendy's 4 for 4, man. Four drivers, four tracks for the championship. Hey, NASCAR, I'm available. All right, marketing guy right here. Whatever you want, let me know. We can buy out Wendy's if we need to. I'm here. 4 for 4, baby. 4 for 4.
The 4 for 4, baby.
But yeah,
Mhm.
no, I mean, I'm with you, man. I think it would be great. I mean, you if you even if you had four drivers, four different types of tracks, short track, road course, super speedway, intermittent, would be great. It'd be awesome. And the
Yep.
TV ratings and the ticket sales would be out of the roof. It really would
I
be.
think every track. I think every track would sell out.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is find I think the biggest challenge NASCAR would need, find some kind of bonus, some kind of something, be it monetary, money, whatever it is, to push these other drivers. So to get the manipulation part out of the way. I think if you have a non-Final Four guy and you tell him, "Hey, if you win this race, we're going to throw in a meal." I doubt they'll do a meal, but throw in a little
Can we
hefty purse.
bring back the no bull? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, the Xfinity series does the dash for cash.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Something
You
similar to that would be awesome.
still have like even when you get into those championship races, you still got to have the other guys' urgency to be able to go and not just go out there and ride around. Like,
Yeah.
offer, I don't know what it is, like offer an extra $1 million purse. And we've talked
Hmm.
about, the All-Star race, $1 million should be more than it is. But I mean, in a regular
Something,
everyday Sunday race,
some.
$1 million is a lot,
Hmm.
so
Because
um
you need to motivate them to want to run, and then you got to figure out how to take out the manipulation, like we saw, unfortunately, at Martinsville last fall. Now, I can tell you how to get rid of that. One, you need to penalize them more than you did, and then two, these other guys need to stop being so freaking nice and just move somebody, just wreck them.
mm,
Honestly, at this point, I mean, if they're going to do that, just wreck them.
mm, yep,
You had it coming. I hate to
absolutely.
be that guy, especially after the Xfinity race we had and the track behind me right now, but I mean, I don't know. So I think I want to say I feel pretty confident in saying that I think NASCAR's trending in the right direction to fix this, and I could completely bring that statement back in a few short days or weeks here, but I feel pretty good that they're listening on that side of things. They're listening and they're understanding. Okay, we got to make a change. And if it took Joey Logano winning a championship to make it happen, then whatever, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'll take it at that point. But no, I think they started to hear the rumblings after last season. They heard it all off season. They came out and said we're not going to make any changes this year, but you know don't
Which is
sleep on
okay. I
us.
mean, don't make a
Yeah,
knee
that's
jerk reaction. Let's work through
yeah.
this.
I think it's all going to really depend on a lot of it's going to depend on how this year finishes.
Hmm.
Um, I think they're looking at changes regardless. But
Hmm.
if we have another, Joey type situation this year, I don't think they're going to have any choice but to change. The
Yeah.
noise is going to be too loud. But um, the fans are, and of course, I know you listen to Denny's pod, and the fans are really in tune to this part, but we're also really in tune to the car part, and we'll touch on that later.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to his this week yet. I'm gonna crank that up tomorrow morning on the way to work. Um, so I'll get that one in. But originally I was gonna say we roll stage one, just recapping the weekend, but let's finish stage one right there. I think that's a good place to stop. I think NASCAR's got a little positive momentum in their back pocket, and the last few weeks have not been positive. So let's move it on into stage two here, and let's just talk about all the racing. So I don't know how much you got to watch, but I did watch a little bit of the truck race Friday night. Corey Heim gets the win there. My only comment to that is like, can those guys really not see the grass like and know where the track runs out? I have never in my life just that last little cut in the tri-oval.
Mhm.
Like, what are you doing, man? I saw so many guys run into dirt. Like, come on, man. It's not a video game. This is real life. Like, we're not playing NASCAR heat. We're not on iRacing, and maybe that's the problem because that's what a lot of those guys do before they come into that. But like, come on, man. Know the track limits. Like, and I was seeing stuff on X that night that was like, hey, why don't we just add a little bit more pavement? Because they'll keep pushing the limits. That's why. And
And
you're a professional race car driver. Figure it out.
it's gonna what it'll end up happening is it'll turn into Phoenix, and
Yeah.
it's just I don't want that. Like I want guys to be
No.
able to go on the track and drive and have to work the wheel, so to speak. So
Yep.
yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of removing the grass for any means. I
I
hated that
will
they
say,
removed I hated they removed it
yeah,
in Martinsville.
yeah. I'm a little surprised though that Texas hasn't gone to turf. That surprises me a little bit. They're still natural there, which hey, I'm a grass man. You are too. We send each other pictures of our lawns every now and then, so we're good with that. But yeah, I mean, it just the good news is that it was just soft enough that it caused damage on them trucks, and they didn't drive the same after that. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you get to watch Truck Race Friday night? I don't know if you did or not.
I did
It
not.
was a good finish.
I
Shout
did
out to
not.
Corey Heim for getting the win there. It was a pretty good truck race, all things considered.
Corey
The only
Haim's
problem
cool.
with the truck series now, man, is we're like one race a month until we get to like August with the trucks, and that's just disappointing. I love the
Mm,
trucks, man.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
They put on a good show. I mean,
Yeah. So let's
so
move on to the Xfinity race here. Once again, can they not see the grass either? But I digress. Kyle Larson steps up. I'm sure it was really hard to convince him to fill in for Connor Zilich, who did get injured in that nasty lick he took at Talladega.
mhm.
Um, and kind of smart by Zilich, too. If he wasn't feeling 100% and he had the doctors, in NASCAR working with him to give him that waiver, I don't blame him for taking that because he didn't race last week and he's going to get this week off as well because I don't think Xfinity races this coming week. So he's getting a little bit of a break. And we'll see him back. I guess that does Xfinity run at North Wilkesboro? Or is that just trucks? I cannot remember. We might not
I
see him
think
back
it's
till
just
Charlotte.
I think it's just trucks.
Yeah, so I think he gets a break
Three
for
weeks off.
3 weeks off. Really? Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
So yeah, and when he comes back, he's come back with vengeance. So he definitely wants to be healthy because I completely forgot that Zillage is running the Xfinity race and the Coke 600 in Charlotte. So he's going to want to be up and going. But anyways, Larson comes in, schools those boys once again. I think the only driver that had something for him was Justin Allgaier, and he had engine issues,
Mhm.
unfortunate. And so, yeah, I mean, gosh. I'm sitting there watching the Xfinity race, and I'm to the point where I'm like, I want to see 5 or 6 top Cup guys. Like, I want to see Larson. I want to see Denny. I want to see Kyle Busch. I want to see one of the Penske drivers, one of the top 2 Penske drivers, and then at this point, heck, throw in another Hendricks guy. I don't care. I want to see like 5 or 6 of these guys. Get in an Xfinity car and just let it rip in the same race. School all those other guys, and now I want these cars, each one of those cars, to be on the same level, and I want them to go out there, whoop up on these guys, and show NASCAR just how good of a product they have in the Xfinity cars, and like they're just ruining what could be on Sundays.
Yeah, I'm full support. I think Larson. If I had to pick like five, it'd probably be Larson, Denny, definitely Kyle Busch. I'd love to be able to see him in some good race
Something
car.
that makes you have to have a wheel and be a wheel
Uh,
man, makes you have to
give
use
me
a wheel.
give me Blaney. I think Blaney's. I think he gets up on the wheel enough that he's willing to put it to somebody. Um, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing like a middle of the pack person, like
Mm,
I don't know, sort of like a. I wouldn't mind Hosevar to see him drive one of
hmm
those cars. I wouldn't
hmm
mind seeing. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Eric Jones, and we'll talk about him in a little bit when we talk about the top 10, but from Texas. But I wouldn't mind seeing one of those guys because I think it would just I think seeing them in that product also too, and seeing how the difference between people want to crap on like an Eric Jones or someone like that, but then if they came down there and they dominated, and was running behind those other
Well,
four
he
guys,
did. I mean, Eric
yeah,
ran well in the Xfinity
he
Series when he
did,
was there, so
he
it would
did.
not shock me in the
He
least if
won a
he
championship, didn't he?
strapped up. Yeah, I don't know, but I know he
I'd
raced
have to
well
go back
enough.
and
But
look.
he could strap up and get in them cars because they ain't changed since the last time he left, and he could
Yeah,
strap up and
so
go in there and still run as good as he used to.
yeah, so and that's no slight at Eric Jones by any means, but
No,
just
yeah,
the
for
first
sure.
name that popped in my brain.
Yeah, well, I mean, Eric on top of everything, I mean, guy goes to Gibbs. I don't really know if he got the best treatment it gives, so to say, as Ty was coming up, and it just didn't work out. And, he ended up where he ended up. But yeah, I don't think Eric Jones is as bad as everyone makes him out to be. Um,
Mm-mm.
so, well, anyways, let's move it on to the Cup race on Sunday. We already mentioned Joey Logano won, unfortunately for America and Chipper Jones. Um, but
That's
I mean,
squash
your
and
thoughts,
apparently.
your thoughts on Texas? I mean, we'll get
I
in. Wait before you say if it
Yeah,
was a good race
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
we're going to talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. I mean, just overall thoughts to me, it was a race of attrition is what it was.
100%. It was. Hey, let me not get up in the high lane and spin this puppy around, but let me just keep on waiting until the timing's right. And ultimately, that's what Joey did, and I mean, he
It was
benefited
a
from it.
Joey Logano type of race is what it
It
was. It was
was. It
Nashville
was.
2024 2.0, except the gas
Mm-hmm,
mileage thing.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, overall thoughts is just it's unfortunate. It's a one groove track to an extent. Now, I will say, and we'll get into this in just a second. Texas is better. I still don't like it, but it's better than what it's been, and it involves a little bit of driving strategy now, but you still can't really pass.
That's a car problem. I don't think it's a track problem.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't
No,
know. Let's move it on. Oh, go ahead.
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
I told you, a couple times that I mean, I like Texas. I think, it's had you know, its downfall a little bit, but it's a good track. And when the cars run fast and they're slipping and sliding over the place, it's great. If they can, and we'll get into this, but if they can fix the little bumps,
Yeah,
it
the
would be
bump,
really good. Yeah, the
singular
bump.
Cody, the
Yeah.
bump.
So you know, but yeah, if they could fix those, it'd be really good. And but I also think some of these guys too, if we had a different car, how would it react over that bump?
Mhm. Didn't
So
bother the Xfinity cars.
mm-mm. so well, those cars are heavier too, right?
And they don't sit as low to the ground. See, basically, with the
Right.
issue when I've listened to what these guys are saying with the current next gen cars is they're bottoming out. They hit the
Yeah,
bump and they bottom out, and that's all she wrote. I mean, Unless your car is just dialed up perfect, you're screwed. I mean, we saw it with Josh Berry. I mean, I'm texting you. I'm like, dang, that 21 looks good. I'm feeling like the king of the world. I put him in my darn fantasy lineup. At one point, I was like, stop the count. I was beating everybody in our fantasy league by 20, 30 points. And it all went downhill once Berry went around.
I feel like that's when the race turned.
Yeah, yeah, it really did. So let's
The
talk about
attrition.
this. Yeah, I wanted to put this in there. You and I both vote on Jeff Gluck's poll every week. Was this a good race? This is what he always asks. And this is good because we voted opposite. I voted yes. You voted no. I'm going to give my reasoning for yes. You give me your reasoning for no. All right. My reasoning for yes was the question is, was this a good race? And I will say, yes, it was a good race. Was it a great race? No. By no means was it a great race. So I look at it as like, what is the question asking me? And I think what made it good, and you and I both said this, was it was entertaining. Was it the best racing? No, because the cars still couldn't pass outside of a restart. You had a singular bump where the tunnel underneath the track, has caused the ground to shift a little bit, and you get a little bump in the track. You see it everywhere that has a tunnel, but it's really bad at Texas. That was like the only major factor in it, and cars coming and going, it seemed. And when they went, they completely went. I didn't really like the restarts were exciting, but that was it because guys had to do some really stupid stuff and hit some really tight windows because that was their only chance. And that made it entertaining. So when I sat back and was like, was it good? Yeah, it was good. Do I want to keep seeing this at Texas? No, I don't. But was it good? Yes, and it's also better than Texas has been the last few years, and so I'll give them that. So I think that's why I voted yes. I was entertained. I was entertained. It was a different kind of entertainment, but I was entertained.
For
The
sure.
floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, I answered no because it didn't ask me was it an entertaining race, the same as kind of what you're spitting out. So, I it was entertaining to me. The restarts were good because, like you said, people had to put them in really tight spots, and you had to get the positions when you could get them because if not, you weren't going to be able to pass. There was some decent racing. I will say Fox did a pretty decent job of the middle of the pack showing some passing, some
Oh,
racing, but Texas,
hey,
so
not to interrupt you, but
yeah.
golf clap to Fox for not going to commercial this week with less than 10 laps to go in the race. Baby steps. Baby
Well,
steps.
also too, wasn't the producer they had wasn't last week
This
his
was,
last week?
it was, I was going to say this is a new producer this week too. Maybe that had something to do
Yeah,
with it. I don't
and
know.
maybe
We'll find out.
it maybe last week. That being the producer's last one. Now it's ESPN for Monday Night Football. God help us. But maybe that was just a big final fu to NASCAR and Fox.
I think
But
the best thing I
anyway,
heard was everyone was mad. It was on the teardown. I was listening to them on the teardown, and they were talking about, they were seeing tweets that people were mad. They were cutting the commercial, and they're like, well, Fox only cut the commercial because they knew nobody was going to do anything. They couldn't pass. So, I guess that's
you
fair.
ain't wrong. It's fair.
Sorry to
They're just gonna
interrupt you.
run.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But so yeah, I mean, when you asked me the question, was it a good race? I put no. I didn't think it was. It was entertaining, but when it all come down to a restart. It all come down to a green
Hmm.
right checker. If those guys don't spin
Hmm.
because of the tunnel underneath and the ground settling and being a bump, I mean, uh, you probably have one or two drivers just run away with that thing. So,
Hmm.
yes, I like Texas, and I think Texas is, like I said, when it's fast and it's slick and it's good. To me, like, not killing a dead horse, but the car's the problem. It's not necessarily Texas. So, that's why I like Texas, why I advocate for it. But I didn't think it was necessarily a good race. I thought it was entertaining. Um, and that's just kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, and and kudos to Texas too because ticket sales were up. The crowd was fantastic for a cup
Oh, it
race
was
there for the first
great.
time that I can never remember. But I wanted to read you a little something here, Cody. So the Texas poll finished under 51%. So after six races in 2025, this season was trending, and this tweet comes from Daniel Cespedes. I don't know. I probably butchered that really bad. But anyways, we were trending toward being the third best season in the good race poll. Now we've had 5 consecutive races earning less than 51% approval, and it is the lowest average yes percentage ever through 11 races since Gluck's been doing that poll. So it speaks for itself. I mean,
It
the
does.
fans and in the little, I don't know how much the fantasy group we're in. We're in that little Facebook group with it. So shout out to those guys on there. But they were talking on there today. They're like, imagine we're sitting a little over 50%. Imagine that could have fluctuated a few percentage points here and there depending on who won. Let's say Blaney wins. It probably goes over 51%. It probably does. Let's say Bubba wins, even though he didn't really have that much of a chance, but let's just say it probably dips below 48 at that point. You know what I mean? So these polls come and go a
Hmm.
lot with who won, but at the end of the day, when you have a driver like Logano, which most people don't particularly care for, I wouldn't say they hate him, they just don't particularly care for Joey. I think the poll's sitting about where most people feel. And, where it's like you and I, we're 50 right here right down the middle with it. So, yeah, we'll see. I have a question on here for our notes what they should do with this track. Me personally, I still say take it off the schedule and never see it again, act like it never happened. But it's getting better. I'll admit. I'll be the bigger man here and say we can keep it for now. We can keep it for now.
Yes. Yes, please keep it. Please keep it because, although it might look a little odd on the front stretch in the tri-oval, but and it's got a weird bump. I'd like to see it with a different car, and of course we get to see it with the Xfinity series, and it usually puts on a pretty good show, as
You know,
Xfinity always does typically.
I think the only reason this car doesn't work as well at Texas as you would think it would with the intermediate, it's just so freaking big of a track, man. It's just so wide.
It
It's almost
is.
hard to get multiple grooves going there, and that's what makes it so hard to pass here, whereas
I,
compared to a Charlotte or a
I
Kansas
think it
like we're
would
going to have this
be.
coming weekend.
I think it would be a lot different if you could run multiple grooves in this car.
Hmm.
I think it would be really good. But to your point where it just bottoms out so much, I just really just kind of, you know, it's almost like kind of like a Darlington kind of thing. If like, you're going to run turns 1 and 2 different than you are 3 and 4. Um, so it's, in one turn, you can have a second groove, but in the other one, it's like, oh, nope, I got to check up and, follow
Hmm.
the leaders. So, um, it adds a little bit of a challenge in there, but I'd be eager to see what it would look like with a different car for
Yep,
with these guys in it. With the
I agree. I agree. You hit on this a minute ago. Weirdest top 10 you can think of in a long time.
Me and you said the same thing in our group chat. Weirdest top 10. I mean, I literally right as before you sent that, I had just told Amber before that final restart. I said, look at who's in this top 10 right now. I was like,
Yep.
is this in the twilight zone?
Yep.
So yeah, it
I
was
want to I
definitely
want to go
weird.
back and actually read the top 10 for everyone. So Joey Logano, of course, wins. Ross Chastain second. Ryan Blaney third. Kyle Larson fourth. That's not that crazy. Top five, okay. Ross Chastain hadn't done much this year, but okay. Then fifth, you had Eric Jones. Sixth, Ricky Stenhouse. Seventh, Austin Dillon. Eighth, John Hunter Nemechek. Ninth, Christopher Bell. Very, very quiet ninth place, Christopher Bell. And then 10th was Daniel Suarez. Not to mention, let's just go on through 11th and 12th. 11th was Todd Gilliland, and 12th was Ty Dillon. From a
Todd
NASCAR side
Gilliland
of
was up there
things,
at the
this
top.
is, yeah, I'm sure NASCAR executives are like,
He's
oh, this was fantastic. But I'm sitting here like, did we get there off pure product or did we get there through attrition? And I think I have my answer.
it's definitely through attrition. Like, I mean, you look at Kyle Busch, he's up there in the top 4 with, a few laps to go,
With a
and,
fast car.
he wrecks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us want to see that 7-Eleven paint scheme in Victory Lane, but we unfortunately didn't get to see that. He needs to bring that paint
Yeah.
scheme back this year. So,
Yeah, they do.
um,
They do for sure.
but it was definitely for attrition. It was not, you have a dominant car in Josh Berry wreck. You have you got Kyle Busch that wrecks. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Bubba Wallace wrecked there, later in the race.
Hocevar had a
So it
weird
was
well then you
Hocevar.
also had the weird caution in the middle of a pit cycle that kind of flipped it as well. And so
Yep,
that's what ruined the
yep.
day for Hocevar and I can't remember who else got kind of flipped around on that one, but I'm texting you
William
and I'm like
Byron.
Byron, yeah, and I'm like, man, it just ruined their day because they're not moving back up through that field. Not unless there is attrition. That kind of helped Byron get up to 13th, but that was as far as he could go. And he was up there the whole race. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just a product of where we're at right now. And it's unfortunate. It really is. It really is. So
Yeah,
um
and I think that's too like you said, NASCAR loves it with this car of like, oh, there's parity, but really there wasn't. Like
mm-mm.
it's not from the sense of like all
It's
those
not like it
guys had
was in the
really good
first
days.
year.
It was just
Yeah. It's not like it was the
no,
first year.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, here's another stat that the executives will love. All top three drivers started outside the top 20. It's the first time since 2008 that that's happened. And that's crazy to say with this car. And people defending it can go to that stat. And they have it. That's fine. But again, I'd say take that with a grain of salt. So, yep.
take that with all that salt from those pretzels at Martinsville Speedway.
Yeah, I was sitting up there hitting the Salt Bay off that thing too. All right, well, let's move it on to the final stage. I've had enough talking about Texas. We don't have to talk about it again until next year. So that's nice. Let's just hit our final stage here. I'm kind of calling this one gas and go. We'll hit this one kind of quick. Just a couple little tidbits. Um, TV ratings for Talladega down 6% from the previous year. Um, I think that's a red flag. We need to figure something out. This is Talladega. This is spring Talladega. Should not have 6% down on the ratings. And there wasn't
Ooh,
anything else on TV Sunday. It wasn't like the Masters was on TV. Yeah,
mm-mm.
this
No, and
is an issue.
you got Kenny Wallace on social media saying we had 4 million people watch Talladega. Yeah, that's great. Like I'm excited about it, but it was down 6%. Like let's call it what it is. And I had Kenny just I love Kenny Wallace, but man, he was just not budging on the way
The
that you know.
Yeah, someone might be stuffing his pockets a little bit there because he was all about some this is great last week. So I don't really know what's going on there, but okay, Kenny, good for you, buddy. Um, Next one, we talked about both of them being in the top 10, but Legacy Motorsports puts both drivers in the top 10. I will say they're getting a little bit better this year. Are they starting to figure something out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, of course, with the attrition, going back to that, I think that played a big part. But they've consistently, I mean, been running, middle of the pack. I feel like pretty consistently this year. I feel like every time, I kind of look back there from the 15 to 20 range, they're
Hmm.
right there. And then, Eric Jones, I mean, every so often he's kind of flirting with the top 10. Then you might get run into some bad luck. But they've
Hmm.
been, I mean, for them, I think it's just going to be continue to be a yearly basis, and hopefully they can, continue to get better.
And again, just for people who don't know, they switched to Toyota and they do not have an alliance with Gibbs or 2311, so they're kind of doing things on their own. So it's a little different from they're literally having to start from the get go and go from there. So this next one's kind of a hot topic. In the Holler podcast last week, which comes out toward the end of the week, Elton Sawyer seems to say nothing's wrong with the cars on super speedways because there are 64 lead changes at Talladega. Only thing I got to say is, man, yeah, you're going to get 64 lead changes when you're running four wide and everyone's saving gas and they're only able to move a half a car up and a half a car back. Uh, It rubs me the wrong way, man. They talk. We've talked about this before. I don't know if we've talked about it on the pod, but we've texted like this before. They really think die-hard NASCAR fans are stupid sometimes. Like it's that's what it gives off.
Yeah, and once you give Denny's podcast a listen to, and he talks about the story with Michael Waltrip, and you may have seen the clip
I've
on
seen that
Instagram
clip.
already,
Yeah.
yeah, about Michael's like, well, they're running 2x2. The fans don't know. They think the racing's great, and then he's like, no, like you need to give our core fans way more credit. So Michael Waltrip, as dumb as that guy is, I mean, cheater owner, but let's
Yeah.
he needs to go on somewhere and give the fans a little more credit. And
Yeah, I mean, for a new
because
fan, yeah, a new fan coming in, yeah, it's probably exciting. Like
sure,
when my son was watching, he was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but then after a while, he was like, "They're staying the same." I'm like, "Yes, they are, son. Yes, they are." He's 6 years old, can figure it out. You're telling me that adult people, you really don't think we understand what's going on here? Like, come on, man.
that have that have been watching racing for 20 25 years. I mean,
Exactly.
we know, like we've seen from Gen 3 to Gen 4 to COT to Gen 6 to now Gen 7. Like we've seen it all, like and I for Michael Waltrip, when I heard that on Denny's podcast for Michael Waltrip not to give fans the credit, I was like, man, like this dude's a dunce. Like, he
Well,
thinks that's what we
Mikey took
are,
a
but
couple
really
hard
it's
hits
him.
back in the day, so we.
He did, but I still think, for us, it's just we know what the product is, and you can't just sit there and look at that and watch them run too wide and think, or four wide and think, oh, that's great. We're not stupid. Give the fans
Yeah,
credit.
yeah, and not to keep harping back, on Talladega, but Dale and TJ Maters were both talking about there's just so much drag in these cars on there. You can't step out. There's no point. If you step out, you are running almost 15 miles an hour slower than you are in the pack, and that's just uncalled
Yep.
for. Now, NASCAR's happy because cars aren't going 200 miles an hour. The chance of they think, I believe, what they think is the chance of someone getting hurt is going lower, but these cars turn around backwards and they take off like they're going off the runway at Newark. I mean, it's just like I don't really know what to say. Cars have been flipping forever. These guys know what they're signing up for. Yes, we need to keep them safe. We don't want any more tragedies like we had in the early 2000s. But in the same sense, let's not sacrifice what makes this sport all because we want to keep them under 200 miles an hour. And they're still going airborne
I,
anyways.
and I get it. Everyone's situation, everyone's accident, everyone's body's different. But if Austin Dillon can live through what he lived through at Daytona, a couple years ago, in the Gen 6 car, nonetheless.
Ryan Newman,
Um, Ryan Newman,
I thought for
Ryan
sure.
Preece.
Yeah,
Yeah, we all thought Ryan Newman was a goner. I mean, we all thought a lot of. I mean, I don't know if you listened to Dale Jr.'s podcast with the guy that used to commentate for NBC. Um, I
I
can't
can't
remember
think
his
of his
name.
name, but I know who you're
It's,
talking
it's,
about. Yeah,
I want to say like Rick Allen. I think is his. I can't remember, but
maybe.
anyway. But he told Junior. He said, going back to that 500, he's like, we were all in the booth and we all thought Austin Dillon was dead.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's my thing. It's like NASCAR has made tremendous leaps. I mean, since Dale Earnhardt's death. So I know we want to keep them, but they all signed up for speed. These are the best guys in the world, and the cars have proven to be safe.
Hmm.
So at some point,
Heck, I mean,
if it
honestly,
happens, it
in the
happens.
next gen, from what it seems. I'm not saying this is a truth, but from what we've seen so far, you're better rolling down the backstretch, doing a bunch of flips than you are just spinning out and hitting the wall backwards like Kurt Busch did. Kurt Busch hadn't raced again, and what in these other cars you would just say was a brush up. And Ryan Preece has flipped 3 or 4 times now. Not, well, he's flipped way more than that, but he's gone airborne a few times now and been okay. So uh, it has to do a lot with the energy. Physics majors would know way more about this than I ever could. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we got to do something to fix it, man. There's so much drag in these cars. It's ridiculous. So, anyways, let's get off that soapbox. All right, man. Kansas coming up here. Let's finish this thing off talking about Kansas. I think we both would agree it's probably best track on the circuit right now.
Yeah, absolutely, no question.
I mean, think of the last few
Um,
races. Their last year, closest finish. Was it
in
the second
NASCAR history.
closest finish ever? Maybe in the close. I don't know. That in Atlanta, they were so
It
dang
was
close
cl-
last year. It was
it was the
unbelievable.
closest. The Atlanta was the closest three-way finish. Kansas was the closest finish ever in NASCAR history.
Okay, okay. Um, Fantastic race there. You look um, at one of the races the previous year. We had Denny and Larson battling it out. Denny gets Larson a little loose, coming off two, beats him down the backstretch for a victory. You've seen Bubba go run well at Kansas too. And it's just been a really good track. It's put phenomenal racing in there, and I am super excited for this weekend. I'm make sure I got nothing going on Sunday at 3 o'clock because I'm gonna be tuning into that thing
Same, same.
on Mother's Day,
It's
nonetheless.
good.
So yeah, shout out to you,
Yeah,
babe. We're gonna celebrate you, but then we're gonna sit down and Mom wants to watch NASCAR is what I'm gonna tell the kids. So
that's right. That's right. So, yeah, no, I'm super excited. I mean, I think, like you said, it's the best track that we've got right now. Maybe that, and I still put Charlotte up there too with this
hmm
car. Um, so I think it's going to be phenomenal. It never disappoints. Um, you know, I know we're going to talk about favorites here in a little bit, but
Yeah, go ahead. That was next, so go ahead, spit them out.
yeah. So, of course, Larson, you got to put up there. Of course, Denny, you kind of touched base on them already. Um, I think Byron's another one that you got to, put up there. Um, I had a dark horse. I'm trying to remember who it was because I looked at my list like right before we got on the pod. Um, I'll have to go look it up while you're doing yours, um, but yeah, those are probably my three favorites. Probably Denny and Kyle and probably William Byron are probably my three favorites. But I'll go look at my
I
dark
don't.
horse here in just a second.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of those. I think all those would be solid picks. I want to see something from Fords that aren't Penske this weekend. I want to see
Mm,
Priest. I want to see Busher. I need to see those guys get up there. Historically, 2311's run pretty good here. So
yeah.
Bubba and Reddick, although last year, for whatever reason, they just didn't run that well at Kansas. Um, but historically, in these new cars, they should be pretty good. I think a dark horse to watch this weekend could be Ty Gibbs. They're starting to figure something out, and Toyotas have run well at Kansas. I don't know if he could win. I just don't know if Ty has that craft at the mile and a half yet, but he's someone who could sneak up there and have a good day. Top
Yeah.
10, maybe sneak into the top five. He was having a good run at Texas last week until the whole
Mhm.
pit cycle issue. So that team seems to figure something out. They almost have to because he's almost to the point. He might can still point his way in, but he's got to put some really solid finishes together. But yeah, I mean, as far as a dark horse is maybe Bad Brad figures it out, or not so bad Brad right now becomes Bad Brad again, but I don't know. That team is struggling.
This, this,
I would
this.
say I'm go ahead.
I was gonna say my dark horse was Alex Bowman. Like,
Mm,
yeah, he's
yeah,
run really good all year, but I think this could be a race because I looked. There was a thing that said he's like fourth in next gen car average finish at Kansas. He's like fourth
hmm
with like an average finish like
he was
seven
another
point
one
eight.
having a great week last week until the
Yeah,
stupidness started. I'll be honest, he might could have flirted with the win last week. I'm not even like he had a
he was
good car.
fast.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was. He was for sure. So yeah, I mean, nonetheless, it's going to be a good race. It always is at Kansas. So weather looks good initially, I think, from what I saw. So yeah, we should have a good one, man. It should be fun. Happy early Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Don't know how many of y'all actually listen to our podcast, but if you do, happy Mother's Day ahead of time. And we're going to celebrate it by watching cars turn left because that's what we do in America. So maybe, just maybe, we'll let the kids sit with us on the couch while we watch NASCAR this week. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Mm-mm.
Cody, I don't have anything else, man. You got anything else for the pod this week?
No, man. I'm glad we had a good week. Glad we had a decent, entertaining race at Texas, and it gave us a lot to talk about. And um, you know, just want to thank everybody once again for listening to the pod out there, and continue to like, subscribe, and share, and help us keep growing this thing.
Hey, you finished it perfect. I'm not going to add anything else except we'll see you all next week.